Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something special, just for you. You told us you're heading to Yellowstone, so we dug into the National Park Service's own resources.
Yeah, we went through a whole bunch of their web pages.
Right, the official stuff planning guides, geology facts, wildlife info, all of it.
And the idea is to give you that deeper layer, beyond just seeing the sights.
Exactly. Help you understand the science behind what you're seeing, the geology, the animals, how it all connects.
Think of it as like a science lens for your trip. It makes everything more meaningful, I think.
I love that. And Yellowstone, I mean, it's got such history. The world's first national park, right? March 1st, 1872.
That's it. And it's huge. Over 2.2 million acres. Just vast.
So we pulled info from all over the NPS, site planning, wildlife, the volcano details, hydrothermal stuff, earthquakes, birds, beavers.
Moose, wolves, amphibians, roads, accessibility. Yeah, the whole range.
Okay, so where do we start? You mentioned powerful forces. Geology seems like the obvious place.
Definitely. Yellowstone is world famous for its geology for a reason. It sits right over this, this enormous volcanic system.
When you say volcanic system,
Yeah.
like a Mount St. Helens kind of volcano, big cone. Have you ever really
No,
thought
actually,
about
that's what's interesting. It's not
what
like that
it
at
would
all.
take
The
to
sources
build a
explain it's
truly,
powered by what's called a hotspot.
borderless digital
Yeah, imagine
economy?
this plume
how do you
of super
simplify
hot rock
currency
rising
across all
really
these different
slowly
nations
from deep
and
inside the Earth's
get around all the
mantle.
friction of traditional
It stays
banking?
put,
Yeah, it's
but
a
the
massive
landmass,
challenge,
the
isn't
North
it?
American
Our current
plate.
financial
The ground
systems,
we're
well,
on.
they're powerful,
Exactly.
sure, but they definitely
It's been
create
slowly
hurdles
sliding
when you're talking
westward
about
over
truly
this stationary
global
hotspot for,
reach and
millions of years.
instant
About as
value
fast as your
exchange.
fingernails
Absolutely.
grow, apparently.
And that's really why
Whoa.
today we're doing a
So
deep dive
over the last,
into
say,
ONPASSIVE
16.5
credits. This is their
million years,
internal
as the plate
digital
moved,
currency
the
system
hotspot
that's
basically
designed to
burned a
power their whole
track across
ecosystem.
what's now southern
Our mission
Idaho.
today really
That's
is
the
to
Snake River
unpack what
Plain.
these
So the
credits
whole
actually
plane is like
are.
a scar left by this hotspot.
Understand why
Kind
a
of,
company
yeah.
like
and
ONPASSIVE
Yellowstone is just the
would even
latest
create
place
its
the
own
plate is sitting
currency.
over that
Right.
plume.
How
That
they function
scale
day to
is
day
just
and
mind-boggling.
what
super
advantages
volcano
they
thing
might
we hear
have
about.
over just
Right.
using regular money.
That comes from the sheer
We'll look at
size of the
commissions, their
eruptions
role
this
in the whole
hotspot has
ONPASSIVE
caused in the
ecosystem,
past.
the OES.
The sources
they see
mention
this going
3
globally.
really
Sound
huge
good.
ones.
Sounds great.
Colossal
Let's get into it.
Okay,
caldera-forming
so
eruptions.
maybe starting at the beginning.
Caldera.
Yeah,
It's
at
like
the
a
most
giant
basic level,
collapsed
what are on-passive
basin
credits?
left
Okay,
after a
so
massive eruption
on-passive
blows the
credits
top
are
off and the ground
basically
sinks in.
the internal
These
units
happened
of
2.1 million
value.
years ago,
They
1.3
fuel the
million years
entire
ago,
on-passive
and the most recent big
ecosystem.
one about
You can think of them as
640,000
the
years
platform's
ago.
own digital
That last
money
one created the
operating
main
completely
Yellowstone
inside their
caldera.
system.
You can
It's
sort of
100%
trace. Today it's
digital.
roughly
So it's
30
kind of
by
like the
45
ONPASSIVE
miles
dollar
wide.
then.
There
A
was a
dedicated
smaller
way
one
to
too
exchange
that
value
made the
just
west
within
thumb
their
of
world.
Yellowstone
That's a
Lake.
pretty good analogy,
So
yeah.
that immense heat
Users
deep down,
can use
Yeah.
these credits
that's
to
what
buy
powers the
products,
geysers and hot springs you see on
upgrade their
top.
services,
Precisely.
transfer
Those
value
hydrothermal
between users,
features,
and they're the
even
visible
earn
signs of
through
that
huge
commission
heat
all
engine
directly
below.
on the
The
platform.
park
says there are
What's
over
really interesting is
10,000
how
of
it's
them.
designed to be
10,000.
this
Yeah,
complete
including over
self-contained
500
financial
geysers,
loop.
which is
Okay, that brings up
roughly
a
half
big
of all the
question,
active
though.
geysers on the
Why
entire
bother?
planet.
Why create an
Right there.
internal half the
currency?
world's geysers?
What
problems did
Okay, how do they
traditional
work?
banking
It seems
cause
so
that
dramatic.
made this seem
It's
necessary?
basically
for
about
them?
plumbing.
Well, the main
heat, and
driver
pressure.
seems to be this vision
Think
they
of a
have
geyser
for a
as a
truly
hot
borderless
spring,
digital
but with
ecosystem.
constrictions.
Relying on traditional banks
narrow
can really limit
bits
who
in
can
its underground
participate
pipe
globally,
system,
especially
especially
near
for
the top.
people in emerging
Okay.
markets.
So
right?
water
Access might
seeps
be
down,
tricky or
gets heated
expensive or
way
just
beyond
slow.
boiling by the
Credits
hot
are meant
rock.
to sort of level
But
the
the pressure
playing
from
field for
all the
everybody,
water
no
and
matter
rock
where they
above
are.
keeps it liquid.
And it's not just about
Right, like a
access.
pressure
It sounds
cooker.
like efficiency was a big goal,
Then,
too.
as the
Exactly.
superheated
Credits
water
mean
rises
instant
and hits those
peer-to-peer
narrow
transfers
spots,
right there on the
steam
platform.
suddenly
So
forms and
you skip the
expands,
bank
like,
delays
rapidly.
entirely. You don't
That
need
steam
currency
builds pressure,
conversions. You
pushing
avoid
the
those
water
fees.
above it
It just
upwards
makes the
until
whole
boom,
value
it
transfer
overcomes the weight,
process much,
pressure
much
releases,
smoother.
and you get that eruption of
so
steam
let's
and
talk
hot water.
practicality.
Okay, that makes sense. And
How
the
do these
cones
credits
and stuff
actually
around
work?
them. For
Right,
example,
so that hot
if a
water
founder earns a
dissolves minerals
commission,
from the
what happens
volcanic
next?
rock, mostly
Right,
silica
so commissions
from
earned.
rhyolite.
They're first paid
When the
out
water
directly
hits the
on
surface and
ONPASSIVE
cools,
credits.
the silica
Then
drops
the user
out,
has
precipitates.
options.
And
They
builds
can
up
use
over
those
time.
credits to
Yep.
buy specific
It forms those
ONPASSIVE
classic
products
geyser
like
cones like you
OConnect,
see at
their video
Riverside
tool,
Geyser or those
or
broad
O-domain
crusty
for
platforms
websites.
of center covering
Or they
whole
could use them to
basins,
upgrade
like
to
around
premium
Old Faithful.
packages for
So
different
the geyser
tools.
literally
What
builds
about
its own
getting it out?
structure.
Can
Amazing.
users turn those
And the other
credits
features,
into
quickly,
actual
what are they?
cash in their bank account?
Well, you've got your
Yes,
basic
that's an
hot
option.
springs.
The system lets you convert
pools of
credits
hot
to
water,
traditional
no
currency
eruption,
through their
then
O
mud
wallet,
pots,
which are
acidic hot
ONPASSIVE's digital
springs
wallet.
dissolving rock
But
into bubbling
that
mud.
process does
Ooh,
depend
gross, but
on
cool.
completing
And
Know Your
fumaroles,
Customer,
those are basically
KYC
steam vents.
procedures.
They're the hottest
That's
feature.
pretty standard
Just
identity
blasting out
verification
steam
stuff
and
for
gas.
financial
Got it.
things.
Mammoth
And of course,
Hot
it's
Springs.
subject
So
to their
those
platform
pictures look
policies,
totally different.
mainly
White
for security
terraces.
and compliance.
Yeah, Mammoth
Okay.
is kind of
Now,
its own thing.
stability Volatility is always
actually
a hot topic with
outside the
digital
main
currencies.
caldera
How How do credits
Ooh.
handle
The heat
things like,
probably
say,
still comes
fluctuating
from the
exchange
main
rates?
volcanic
Ah,
system.
that's actually
maybe
a
traveling
key
along
benefit
deep
they
fault
highlight.
lines,
By
potentially some
pricing
shallower
everything in
heat,
credits,
too.
ONPASSIVE
But
creates this
the
kind of
look is different
universal
because the hot
value
water
within their
flows through
ecosystem.
limestone
It
there.
means the price isn't directly
different
hit
rock.
by
Right.
local
So
inflation
instead of silica,
or,
it dissolves
the ups and
calcium
downs of
carbonate.
external
When that
currencies.
deposits,
If
it
something
builds
costs
those
50
big
credits, it costs 50
travertine
credits
terraces.
everywhere inside
Totally
ONPASSIVE,
different look.
Fascinating.
regardless of
And
what
the
the
colors
dollar or
around
the
these
euro is
features.
doing outside.
Not
So let's
minerals?
clarify
Nope.
something I've heard. People
That's
often say
life.
one
Tiny
credit equals
microorganisms
1
called
USD.
thermophiles, heat
But you're saying
lovers.
it's not actually a
Seriously?
dollar.
Yeah.
Can you
Living in
explain
that
that
boiling
difference?
water.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
a really important point,
extremophiles.
and it does cause
They
some
thrive in
confusion
conditions
sometimes.
that would kill
While
most other
one credit
things.
might be
They
pegged
form these
or referenced to the value of one
colorful
USD,
maps, the blues,
mostly
greens,
for pricing
oranges you
consistency,
see,
it's
it's absolutely
absolutely
not
not
a
a
dollar
dollar
Life
itself.
finds a way, huh?
Think of it more like
Wow.
maybe airline
Okay, and all this
miles,
underground heat
or
and
a
water,
store gift
I bet it
card,
makes the ground shaky
or
too.
even
Earthquakes.
in-game
Oh, yeah.
currency.
Yellowstone is very
linked to a
seismically
real-world
active. The sources
currency,
say
but it
between
only
1,000
functions
and
as an
3,000
internal
quakes
token.
a year.
Strictly
Most are
inside
tiny,
the
you'd never
ONPASSIVE
feel them.
ecosystem. It's
But
really
they
a
often happen in
closed-loop system.
swarms.
It's
linked
that
to the
USD
movement of
reference
fluids,
is just
water,
a benchmark,
gas
a
in the crust
convenient way
above
to
the
price
magma.
things
So the
until you
ground
decide
really
to
is
convert
alive
it
there.
out
What
through
else
their
shaped the
approved
land
process.
besides the fire
That makes
below?
sense.
Ice.
So for the user,
Massive
what are the
glaciers.
real
Glaciers, too.
practical
Big time.
upsides of using
During
credits
past
instead of
ice
just, say,
ages,
using
especially
a
the
credit
last one,
card
the
or doing
Pinedale
a bank transfer
Glaciation,
within
a
the system?
huge
The
ice cap,
advantages
maybe
are
up to
pretty
4,000
significant,
feet
actually.
thick in
First
places,
off, speed
covered
and
most of the
simplicity.
park.
Big
4,000
ones. There's
feet
no
of
waiting
ice.
around
Yeah.
for bank
And
approvals.
as
You
it
skip
moved,
things
it
like
carved the
fees for
landscape. It
international
scoured
stuff.
out those
And
wide
transactions happen
U-shaped
pretty much in
valleys
real
you
time.
see.
It cuts
Very
through a
different
lot of
from
the usual
river-cut
financial
V-shapes.
red tape.
It also dumped
Right. And
piles
with
of
all
rock
this
and
digital
dirt called
movement of value,
moraines, leaving
security
ridges.
must be top of mind.
And it
How are
carried and
credits
dropped
secured?
massive
Absolutely critical.
boulders,
They state
erratics,
that
sometimes
every single
way far from
transaction
where they
using
started.
credits gets
So you can
recorded
actually
on
see signs
ONPASSIVE's
of both
own
fire
secure
and
ledger.
ice.
Plus,
Where
they
should you
integrate
look?
their O-Verify
The sources
system.
point to
That's
places
their
like Mammoth
identity
Hot
verification
Springs and
tool, which
Fountain
helps
Flats, where you can
minimize
see
fraud
thermal
risk,
caves,
adds
gravel
a big
piles
layer of
left by
trust.
meltwater.
Swan
Okay.
Lake Flat is
One
a
thing that
basin
caught my
carved
eye
by
was this
ice.
idea of financial
The Madison
flexibility.
and Lamar Valleys have obvious
Something about
moraines.
accumulating
Hayden Valley is filled with
credits,
glacial till,
potentially
making it
avoiding
marshy.
immediate tax issues.
Near
What's
Tower
the
Fall,
thinking
there might be
That's an
evidence of
interesting
even
aspect,
older
yeah.
glaciers.
And
You
it really
get a
depends
sense of
heavily on the
power.
tax
It's like
laws
reading history in the rocks and
user-specific
hills.
countries, so that's a
Okay,
big
let's shift from
caveat.
the ground
But
to
the
the
idea is
creatures living on
potentially
it.
users could
The
accumulate
wildlife
credits and
is
reinvest them
legendary.
within the
Absolutely.
ecosystem
And
without
what
that
makes
immediately
Yellowstone
triggering a
special, as the
taxable
sources
event,
highlight,
which might
is that
happen
it's
if
a
you withdrew
remarkably
regular currency.
intact
It offers some
ecosystem.
flexibility.
Meaning.
Meaning
And
you've got
strategically
this
for
huge
ONPASSIVE, it
diversity,
encourages users
nearly
to keep
300
value
bird
inside the
species,
platform, right?
67
Helps
mammal
grow the internal
species,
economy and makes
fish,
them less
amphibians,
reliant on
reptiles,
constant
all
external
interacting more or
financial
less naturally,
interactions.
like they have
Keeps
for
the
a very
economic
long
engine
time.
running internally.
That's incredible.
That clarity,
So
that
who are the
efficiency,
stars?
seems like it
Where might
extends
you see
right
them?
into
And
how
what's the
founders get
absolute
paid
number
too.
one rule?
Let's
Number
talk
one
more about
rule
how
without
credits
question
fit into
is
the commission
distance.
system.
Sure.
Safety
So
distance.
commissions, they're
The park rules
calculated
are
based on a
clear.
dollar value.
Stay at least
but
100
the actual
yards, that's a
payout
football
is
field,
always an
away
ONPASSIVE
from
credits.
bears and wolves.
These goes
100
straight
yards.
into the user's
Got it.
O
and at
wallet.
least 25
And
yards
then
away
the
from
user gets
everything
choices.
else. Bison,
They can
elk,
start a
moose,
withdrawal process to get
everything.
traditional money.
Never
They
ever
can use the
feed
credits
them.
to buy
Use the
more
pullouts to
tools or
watch.
services
Don't
right
stop
there
in
in
the
the
road.
ecosystem.
Stay in
Or
your
they
car
could even
if there's
gift
an animal
credits to
jam.
another
And bear
founder
spray.
within the
Absolutely essential if
So
you're
this
hiking.
isn't just a payment
Carry
mechanism.
it, know how
It
to
sounds
use
like
it,
it
have it
fundamentally
handy.
shapes their whole
bears and
economic
wolves,
model. It
serious
encourages
space.
this self-sustaining
Bison, they're like the
economy
park's
inside
logo
ONPASSIVE.
almost.
Pretty much. North
What does
America's
that mean
largest
for their
land
goal
mammal.
of being
And Yellowstone
independent
is
in the
unique because
market?
they've been here
That's a really good way to
continuously
put it.
since
This
prehistoric
system is
times.
key
A
to
real
making
conservation
ONPASSIVE
icon.
economically
Where do you usually see them?
Hayden and
By
Lamar
keeping the
Valleys are
values
classic
circulating
spots
year-round,
year-round.
like you
Big
said,
open
they
spaces.
reduce their
And don't let
need
their
to
size fool you
constantly
bulls
deal
up to
with
a ton.
external
Cows half that, but they can
exchanges.
run 35
It
miles an hour.
streamlines
Faster than
things
you'd
for
think.
them, strengthens their
Definitely.
internal
You might see them
economy.
wallowing
It
in
helps them
dusty
build
pits,
this
especially
robust,
when it's hot or
independent
buggy.
ecosystem.
And if you're
It's
there
maybe less vulnerable
late
to
July or
shocks in the
August,
wider market.
that's the rut.
And
The
looking
mating
at the
whole
season,
ONPASSIVE
bulls get pretty
ecosystem, the
active.
OES.
Good to know.
How are credits
Elk.
used there?
Yeah.
Are they
Seems
the
like they're
standard
everywhere.
They're the
price
most
tag
common
for
large
everything?
mammal,
Pretty
yeah.
much, yeah.
And
All the
super
products
important
within
prey
the
for
OES,
wolves and
whether it's
bears.
OConnect,
The big
O-Tracker
northern
for
herd
website
winters
analytics,
along the
different
Yellowstone and
subscriptions,
Lamar rivers.
they're all
And
priced
the bulls have those
explicitly in
huge
credits.
antlers.
This gives users a
Magnificent, aren't
single
they?
unified
They grow
way to
them new
spend.
each
You
spring
need a
under that
traffic
fuzzy
package or
velvet.
something from their
They
marketplace.
shed
you
the
use your
velvet late
credits.
summer.
You generally
just
don't
before
need
the
to
rut,
step
early
outside the
September
ecosystem
to
for these
mid-October.
transactions.
That's
Makes
when you hear
sense.
them
Very
bugling.
efficient. That
Now,
eerie sound.
can
That's
founders
it. Just
earn
be careful
credits
around them.
passively?
Cows are protective of
Is there a
calves
way
in
to
spring,
build
and
up
bulls can be
credits
aggressive during
without
the rut.
just
Give them
buying things
space.
or
Right.
making direct sales
And
yourself?
wolves.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
The reintroduction
compensation
success
model
story.
is
Yeah,
designed for
brought
that,
back
too.
between 95
Founders
and
can
97.
earn passive
The northern
credits in a
range is
few
probably
ways.
one of the
Things
best
like,
places on earth to potentially
daily
see
traffic
wild
flow
wolves now.
sharing,
What do they
commissions
mainly
based on their team's
Mostly elk,
activity,
especially in winter,
getting
like
like
leadership
90% of their
pools and
diet
direct
then.
referrals.
But
All
the
these
sources
different
say
ways
they're
people
increasingly
earn.
hunting bison,
The compensation
too.
comes
Average
as
pack
credits.
size is around 10
It's designed to
Any cool
encourage
science facts
engagement
about 'em?
and
Actually, yeah, this
long-term growth
fascinating
within the
genetic ecosystem
finding
itself.
about
rewarding
half the
people who
wolves
help it
have
expand
black
and
coats,
stay
right?
stable.
Turns out
Okay,
that
let's
black
look
coat
ahead
gene
now.
is linked to better
ONPASSIVE
immune
talks
function.
about having
Oh,
founders
wow.
in
And they
what,
think
over
it
200
actually
countries.
came from
How do
ancient
credits
hybridization
help them actually
way back
manage
with
that kind of
domestic
global
dogs.
scale?
Wild
Well,
wolves
it
got a useful
simplifies
gene
things
from dogs.
massively.
That's
It
crazy.
basically
It
creates
shows how
one
interconnected
single
things are.
global currency
Sadly,
for
the
all
main
their
cause of
founders.
death
Doesn't
for
matter if you're
wolves
in
in the
Kenya,
park is other
India,
wolves'
Canada.
territorial fights. Everyone
Outside the
operates
park,
with the
it's
same
mostly
credit value.
human
This
causes.
just
Cuts
a
out
tough
all the
existence.
currency confusion.
What about cougars?
Makes value exchange
Mountain
way easier
lions?
across
Much
borders.
harder
It's
to
a
see.
direct way around
Very
a lot of the usual
elusive.
headaches of
They
global
naturally
commerce.
came back to the
And
park.
beyond
They
just
like
making
rocky,
things simpler, what
forested
about tech
areas.
upgrades? Where
Hunt
could credits
elk and
go in the
deer
future?
mostly.
Could they
Do they
integrate
interact
with,
with
say,
wolves
crypto
and
or
bears?
other
Oh,
digital
yeah.
finance trends?
It's tough being a
There's
cougar
definitely
sometimes.
potential there.
Bears
As
and wolves
ONPASSIVE
often
grows,
steal
you could
their
see
kills.
credits
Wolves
getting
have even killed
enhanced with things
cougars.
like smart
It's a
contracts,
competitive environment.
maybe programmable
Researchers
payouts
use
for
GPS
certain
collars
things.
and
The
genetics to
O-wallet
study them.
itself
Intense.
could
Okay, let's
potentially
talk about an
become
ecosystem
interoperable
engineer.
with both
Beavers.
regular fiat accounts
the
and maybe
architects.
even
They're a
crypto wallets
classic
down the
keystone
line.
species.
That would
Their
massively
dams create
boost flexibility.
ponds, which changes
Imagine
the whole
using
habitat.
credits
Those
seamlessly
ponds are great for
like
fish and
Oh,
insects.
bless
And
donations.
they
That's their
encourage
charity thing.
willow
Or
and
shopping
aspen
on their
growth, which
Omart
is
platform.
And thinking
Beavers
even
eat and
bigger
build with.
picture,
You
long
find them
term.
all over,
Yeah.
but maybe more in the southeast,
What are the
southwest,
really
northwest
ambitious goals for
corners.
credits?
You can see
Could
an
they
old dam
ever,
at Beaver
like,
Lake.
break
When's the
out
best
of the
time to see them?
ecosystem, become
They're crepuscular,
more
most
liquid?
active at
The
dawn
vision
and
seems
dusk,
pretty ambitious,
and their numbers
yeah.
are up.
They talk about
Partly
credits
because
becoming the
willows have
main way
recovered
to
more
trade
since
in the
wolves
ONPASSIVE
returned and
marketplace
changed
for
elk browsing
donations, shopping,
patterns.
maybe even
See,
offline services
connections.
eventually.
That's a perfect
And
example.
looking way down the road,
Any
there's
other
the
mammals to
possibility
keep
they
an eye
could
out for?
function more like
Sure.
blockchain tokens,
Bighorn
with greater
sheep
liquidity,
look
maybe
on
even
steep,
someday
rocky
being listed on
slopes
open
like Mount
exchanges.
Washburn
But that
or
seems
near
like a
Tower
longer-term
Fall.
aspiration.
The rams have those huge
Gotcha.
curled horns.
So even right now, before all
Pronghorn
those
they
future
look like antelope,
possibilities,
but aren't.
what's the
Fastest
impact
land
credits are
animal in
having
North
today on
America,
global
up to
payments?
50 mile per
Well,
hour.
even
They
in their
evolved
current
that
setup,
speed to
they
escape
are making a
predators that are
difference
now
for their
extinct,
users.
like American
They're offering
cheetahs.
speed,
Whoa,
giving users more
cheetahs in
control,
North America.
and bringing
Used
more
to be.
people into the
And
digital
pronghorn flare
economy.
those
That
white rump
inclusivity
patches
point.
as a danger
They're
signal.
really helping
Also, moose
solidify
look in
ONPASSIVE's
marshy
claim of
willow
being a
areas.
complete
Their numbers are low,
economic
though, less than
ecosystem.
200.
Amazing
It shows a
details.
practical
What about birds?
alternative to
Lots of
traditional
bird watchers go
finance
there.
for their
For good
global
reason.
user base.
Nearly
So wrapping
300
this up,
species recorded.
what does this all mean for
Look
you,
for
the
bald
listener?
eagles near water.
It seems clear that
ospreys diving
ONPASSIVE
for fish
credits
along
aim
rivers.
to be more than
Trumpeter
just digital money.
swans, huge,
represent,
beautiful birds. There's a small nesting
Confidence,
population,
control,
but many
connection,
more winter
all
there.
within this borderless
Also,
digital
common
space
loons
they
are
were building.
species of concern.
And it really makes
Spring
you think,
migration
doesn't it?
is great.
What does this
Hayden
model, this
Valley
idea
is
of
good
an
for
internal
hawks in late summer, early fall,
platform-specific
and
digital
swans in
currency?
November.
What does
Same
it
rule,
mean for the
25
future of
yards
global
distance,
commerce?
and don't
Could it
use bird
reshape
calls
how
to
we
attract
even
them.
think
It's
about money
illegal.
and
Good to
value
know.
as the world gets
And
more
fish.
connected?
Important
And you
for
have
the
to wonder,
Very.
how might other
Especially the
platforms
native
adopt or
Yellowstone
adapt
cutthroat
something
trout.
similar
They're
to
food
tackle
for
their own
bears,
challenges?
eagles,
Lots to
otters.
consider there.
Passive
they're threatened.
technologies,
By what?
specifically
Non-native
their whole
fish,
idea
rainbow
around
trout
AI
interbreed
traffic
with them,
commissions.
diluting
Yeah,
the
this one's
genetics.
interesting. It's not
And
just
lake
your
trout,
standard online
introduced into
marketing
Yellowstone Lake,
talk.
are aggressive
It,
predators that eat
It definitely
huge
brings
numbers of
up some
cutthroat.
big questions
The
about
park works really
automation,
hard trying to control
maybe
lake
even
trout
wells.
numbers.
Another
Right,
challenge.
and we're basing
Amphibians,
this
too.
on a
Frogs,
pretty extensive,
salamanders.
sort of 100-minute
They're important indicators of
conversation.
environmental
We
health
listened
because
to
they're so
ONPASSIVE's
sensitive
founder,
to changes,
Ash
pollution,
Mufareh,
climate,
talking
disease.
with
They live in water and on
affiliates,
land, part of the food
educators,
web.
tech
Their
analysts
health
from
tells
around
us
the
a
globe.
lot. And they
So
were
when you see all
focused
these interactions,
entirely on
wolves
how this
affecting
system
elk,
is structured,
elk
what
affecting
impact
willows,
they claim
willows
it
affecting
has.
So our
beavers,
goal here
trout
for you
being
listening
prey, is to
Exactly.
really unpack
That's the intact
how
ecosystem
ONPASSIVE
idea. It's this
says
complex
it uses
web
AI
of
for
life, all
traffic, how the
interconnected,
commissions
shaped by the
supposedly work,
geology and
what
climate.
that might mean for what
It's
they
what
call
makes
financial
Yellowstone
freedom.
Yellowstone.
We
It
want to
really
break
drives
down how
home the
this
complexity.
AI traffic is supposed to
Okay,
find
let's get
customers
practical
and
again for your
automate
trip.
earnings, so you
Essential
get the
planning
picture
tips from the
quickly.
park source. Let's jump in.
Top of the list.
Okay, let's get into
Understand
it.
that Yellowstone is seasonal.
We all kind
Things
of
change
know the
dramatically
usual
through
online
the year.
grind,
Yeah.
right?
Roads open
Finding
and close,
leads, boosting
facilities have
clicks,
limited
hoping people
seasons.
buy something.
Usually
Yeah, the
late
constant
spring to
hustle.
early
But
fall
Ash
for most
Mufareh
things.
talks
Could
about
always
something
check
different.
before you
A
go.
system
Always.
delivering,
Check
quote,
the official
targeted
NPS
guaranteed
website for
traffic
current road
and
status,
sharing
facility
commissions,
operating
even if you
dates,
never
and
talk
any
to a
alerts.
customer.
Weather can
Now
close
we
roads
hear new
unexpectedly,
paradigm
even
a
in
lot
summer.
in tech.
And I heard something
All the
about road
time.
construction
So
for
beyond just saying
2025.
automation,
Definitely
what
factor
makes
that in.
this
The park
ONPASSIVE AI
website lists
traffic
several
actually
major
different?
projects for
Structurally,
2025
technologically,
Bridge Bay
is it
area,
really
Gibbon
distinct
River
from,
Bridge,
say,
Lewis River
big
Bridge
region
near Old
services or
Faithful,
affiliate networks?
Yellowstone River
What
Bridge
is
by
this AI
Tower,
traffic,
plus
particularly for
chip
these
sealing,
founder links?
pretty
Okay,
much
good question.
park-wide.
So
Meaning
Ash
delays.
explains it as their own
Absolutely.
proprietary
Expect
AI.
delays,
It
potentially 15, 30
analyzes
minutes, maybe
massive
more in
amounts of
construction
user
zones.
behavior in
Build
real
extra
time.
travel
Real-time
time
data.
into your
Yeah.
plans
And it
between
geolocates
areas.
where
It's a
interest is
big
popping
part.
up.
Good advice.
Then it automatically directs
covered
real
wildlife
potential
safety,
customers they
but worth
stress, not
repeating.
bots,
100%.
to these
It's
founder
probably
links.
the most
And
important safety
founder links
message.
are just
Those
referral
distances,
URLs
100
for
yards
their early
for
members.
bears, wolves,
Essentially,
25
yes.
for
For
others.
the early
are
adopters,
absolutely
the
crucial.
founders.
No feeding,
And
no
Mike
approaching.
Ellis,
One
Use
of the
pullouts.
affiliates in the
Stay in your
discussion
car during
really
jams.
hammered this
Spray for
point.
hikers.
Unlike normal
Non-negotiable.
affiliate
Have it
stuff where you
accessible.
go find
Know how to
traffic.
deploy it.
You're doing
and
the work.
Be extra aware
ONPASSIVE
around elk,
claims it
especially
drives
cows
the
with
traffic
calves
to
or
you.
bulls in the rut.
And when
And
you
the
ask
thermal
about the
areas,
AI
also
analysis,
dangerous.
Ash mentioned they
Extremely.
developed their own
Stay on the
deep learning
boardwalks and
models.
trails.
They
Period.
feed it huge
The
amounts
ground
of
looks
browsing,
solid, but it can be a thin
search,
crust over
social
boiling
data.
acidic
So it's trying to
water.
predict
People
who's
get
likely to
severely
buy,
burned or
more
killed
than
every
just
year,
say
ignoring
age
the
and
warnings.
location.
Keep kids
Exactly.
close.
Seriously
Recognizing
dangerous
subtle
stuff.
patterns,
Weather.
predicting
You mentioned
conversion
it changes
likelihood.
Very
That's
fast.
the claim
Packed
high-intent
for all
traffic.
seasons, even in summer.
And then
Days might
the
hit the
system
70s
follows
or
up.
80s down low,
Automated
but
chats,
nights can
emails,
freeze,
funnels,
especially higher up.
nurturing those
Afternoon
leads
thunderstorms pop
automatically.
up frequently.
So layers are
So
key.
for you listening, think
Layers,
about
rain
that
gear,
shift.
hat,
Moving from
gloves.
always chasing
You can get
customers
hypothermia even in
to a system
seemingly
where
mild
traffic
temps,
is
theoretically
30,
brought
50
right to your
degrees
digital
effort if
doorstep.
you get wet
That
and
does
chilled.
change the
Be
dynamic,
prepared.
doesn't it?
Okay,
It's a fundamental
packing list
shift
updated.
in the model. If it works
Navigation.
as
A
described.
physical map and
Okay,
compass are
that
always
promise
smart if you're
targeted,
hiking.
guaranteed
But also the
traffic,
official NPS
passive
app is really
commissions.
useful.
What's on
It
the
sounds great.
Interactive
Almost
maps
too
you
great,
can download
maybe.
for offline
In a
use, which
world
is
full
great
of
because
online
cell
hype.
service is
You got to be
spotty.
skeptical.
Right.
Info on
What's actually in
services,
place to guarantee the
accessibility,
quality,
and
the
real-time
conversions?
geyser predictions.
And once
for the
traffic
old
does
local
hit,
area.
Oh, cool.
How did the commissions
Geyser
actually
predictions
get
on your
paid out?
phone.
How do they
Visitor center's
separate
worth
this
stopping.
from
Definitely.
the less
Albright at
credible
Mammoth,
schemes out there?
Canyon Village,
Absolutely
Old
critical.
Faithful, they're
Ash
great
went into the
spots for
commission
info,
blueprint. It's
maps,
layered.
permits, talking
So
to
any
rangers.
visitor
The
converting
exhibits
through
are
your
good
link
too.
could
Canyon
be
focuses
a
on
free
geology,
sign-up,
Old
a
Faithful, and
trial,
geysers,
a
obviously.
paid
Is
subscription that
accessibility
triggers a
info
commission.
easy to find?
Okay, yeah,
Any
the
conversion
app has
counts.
it,
Right.
and the
And it
visitor
happens on
centers
three
do
levels.
too.
Commissions
They list
from people
accessible
you
trails,
directly refer.
facilities.
Standard
They even
affiliate
have
stuff.
things like
Then
a beach
commissions
wheelchair
from their
available at
referral,
Fishing
so a
Bridge.
second tier.
Last
and
thing
then
getting
this
in, 80
passes.
spillover
Yep.
thing, which is
You
pretty
need an
unique.
entrance
AI
pass. You can
spillover,
buy it
what's
online
that?
beforehand
It's where the
or
system
at the gate.
apparently assigns
Check out the
random,
America the Beautiful
unattached
Pass
traffic
options
directly
too.
to
Covers
founder
all
or
national
qualifying
parks.
affiliate accounts.
There are discounts for
Sarah,
seniors,
another participant,
military, etc.
confirmed their internal
Might save you
platform,
money.
the OES
Okay,
2.0 system.
As
The
you get ready for this
ONPASSIVE
trip,
ecosystem
remember,
platform.
you're not
Right.
just going to
She
see
said it
pretty
tracks
mountains and
everything
geysers.
automatically.
You're walking on
Yep.
the
So it
roof
doesn't
of a
matter where the
super
traffic came
volcano.
from, direct,
Traversing
spillover,
landscapes
whatever. If it
carved
lands
by
under your ID
ancient
and
glaciers.
converts,
You get a
and
percentage.
stepping into
And they
this
claim this
incredibly
tracking and
complex
spillover
living
makes it
system where
sustainable,
everything is
prevents it from
connected.
being
Exactly.
top-heavy.
That's
And
the
knowing
argument,
a bit about
that
how
the
it's
automation
connected
and
to
the
hotspot,
spillover
the ice, the
are
wolves,
designed to
and
distribute
elk and
opportunities
willows
more
and
fairly,
beavers,
keep
it
it
just
viable
makes
long
everything you
term,
see richer.
addresses
You
that
start
common
noticing more.
concern
You
with
really do. You
multi-level
see
systems.
steam, you think
That
about the
structure,
pressure
especially the
underground, you see a
spillover,
U-shaped
sounds
valley,
incredibly
you picture the
streamlined
ice,
for
you
passive
watch a
income.
bison,
Maybe
you think
too
about its ancient
streamlined. Do
history
we have
here.
actual
You look for sheep
examples?
on the cliffs.
Does
It
it
connects
really
you to the
work
place
like
on a different level.
set it,
It does.
and forget it?
You're
Yellowstone's
right to ask,
story
does it
is
really
one
work
of deep
passively?
time,
Yeah, or is there
immense
fine
power,
print,
but
you know,
also
hidden
subtle
requirements?
interactions.
Well,
A
Emmanuel
beaver dam
Nanjiao,
changing a
He
stream,
shared
a
a pretty
wolf pack
specific story
influencing
from
where
the beta
plants
testing
grow.
phase.
Okay,
so
what
the
did he
final
say?
thought for you
he
as
said
you
he
explore.
received
Remember,
186
this is a
traffic
dynamic
leads
place
directly
Yeah.
from the
It's
system.
always
And out of
changing.
those, always
42
evolving.
converted into
Yeah.
actual customers.
Consider how these
42
forces,
conversions.
big and small,
Okay.
are
And
constantly
the
shaping
result?
this ecosystem.
Resulted in $900
just like they
in
shape our whole
commissions.
planet. It's a
And his quote
living,
was,
breathing
"Without lifting a
story
finger."
unfolding right in front of you. Without lifting a finger. That's a strong claim.
He is. Joyce Lynn, another person in the discussion, jumped on that, saying that's the power of the AI spillover. It fills the pipeline even for people who aren't natural marketers.
So it helps the non-salesy types.
That's the idea. And Mike Ellis added a crucial point. These aren't just one-off leads. They often become active users who renew monthly.
Ah, so recurring commissions, that builds up.
Exactly. Now, that phrase, without lifting a finger, it's powerful, but we should probably clarify, it likely refers to the active selling part.
Right, not like you do literally nothing.
You still need to activate your account, probably monitor things. They mentioned studying your analytics is key to actually maximizing the potential. So maybe without active selling is more precise.
Okay, that makes sense. Still, Emmanuel's $900. It makes you wonder about traditional sales jobs, doesn't it? What does that level of automation mean for how people might earn money?
It's a big question.
And if one person gets $900 kind of passively, what happens if this scales? Thousands, millions of users. What's the bigger economic picture ONPASSIVE paints? How do earnings compound?
Dr. Raj Patel, an economist involved, gave a breakdown. He sketched out a scenario. Say a user earns $25 per conversion,
Okay.
and the system sends them just 10 conversions a day. That's $250 a day.
Or $7,500 a month, just from the traffic.
Exactly. Solely from the AI-driven traffic in his example. And Ash Mufareh Sarah himself projected much higher numbers down the line.
Like what?
He suggested some founders might see 100, maybe more, conversions daily once everything's fully automated and their global marketing ramps up.
Wow, okay. That's significant scale.
And Sarah added another layer. Top founders, she said, might have like 10,000 users downstream in their network.
So the traffic gets distributed through that network.
Yeah, building team commissions. It creates this massive potential scale, of course, these projections.
They rely on the system working flawlessly, finding enough converting customers continuously.
Precisely. The consistency depends on ongoing optimization, market reach. The compounding comes from those recurring subscriptions and the network effect you mentioned.
It definitely encourages you, the listener, to think about that compounding effect, the long view. But it brings up a really basic question.
Where's all the traffic coming from?
Exactly. It can't just appear out of thin air. There needs to be a real engine driving this.
No magic button, right. The source material laid out several channels. It's a multi-pronged thing.
Okay, like what?
Paid traffic, so global advertising campaigns, organic search optimization, SEO, AI-generated funnel campaigns.
They use AI to build the marketing campaigns, too.
Apparently. Plus social media outreach powered by their own platform, ONET.
ONET, that's their private social network.
Yeah, and even internal traffic from people using other ONPASSIVE products. Joyce Lynn called it smart traffic.
Smart traffic, meaning?
Meaning, the AI supposedly knows who's likely interested in what specific product and sends them to the right person's referral ID. Have you ever really thought about what it would take to build a truly borderless digital economy? I mean, how do you simplify currency across all these different nations and get around all the friction of traditional banking?
Yeah, it's a massive challenge, isn't it? Our current financial systems, well, they're powerful, sure, but they definitely create hurdles when you're talking about truly global reach and, instant value exchange.
Absolutely. And that's really why today we're doing a deep dive into OnPassive credits. This is their internal digital currency system that's designed to power their whole ecosystem. Our mission today really is to unpack what these credits actually are, understand why a company like OnPassive would even create its own currency,
Right.
how they function day to day, and what advantages they might have over just using regular money. We'll look at commissions, their role in the whole OnPassive ecosystem, the OES, and where they see this going globally.
Sound good.
Sounds great. Let's get into it.
Okay, so maybe starting at the beginning. At the most basic level, what are OnPassive credits? Okay, so OnPassive credits are basically the internal units of value. They fuel the entire OnPassive ecosystem. You can think of them as the platform's own digital money, operating completely inside their system. It's 100% digital.
So it's kind of like the OnPassive dollar then, a dedicated way to exchange value just within their world.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. Users can use these credits to buy products, upgrade their services, transfer value between users, and even earn through commissions, all directly on the platform. What's really interesting is how it's designed to be this complete self-contained financial loop.
Okay, that brings up a big question though. Why bother? Why create an internal currency? What problems did traditional banking cause that made this seem necessary for them?
Well, the main driver seems to be this vision they have for a truly borderless digital ecosystem.
Yeah.
Relying on traditional banks can really limit who can participate globally, especially for people in emerging markets, right? Access might be tricky or expensive or just slow. Credits are meant to sort of level the playing field for everybody, no matter where they are.
And it's not just about access. It sounds like efficiency was a big goal too.
Exactly. Credits mean instant peer-to-peer transfers right there on the platform. So you skip the bank delays entirely. You don't need currency conversions. You avoid those fees. It just makes the whole value transfer process much, much smoother.
Okay, so let's talk practicalities. How do these credits actually work? For example, if a founder earns a commission, what happens next?
Right. So commissions earned, they're first paid out directly in OnPassive credits. Then the user has options. They can use those credits to buy specific on-passive products like OConnect, their video tool, or ODomain for websites, or they could use them to upgrade to premium packages for different tools.
What about getting it out? Can users turn those credits into, actual cash in their bank account?
Yes, that's an option. The system lets you convert credits to traditional currency through their O-wallet. That's ONPASSIVE's digital wallet. But that process does depend on completing Know Your Customer (KYC) procedures. That's pretty standard identity verification stuff for financial things. And of course, it's subject to their platform policies, mainly for security and compliance.
Okay. Now, stability is always a hot topic with digital currencies. How do credits handle things like, say, fluctuating exchange rates?
That's actually a key benefit they highlight. By pricing everything in credits, OnPassive creates this kind of universal value within their ecosystem. It means the price isn't directly hit by local inflation or, the ups and downs of external currencies. If something costs 50 credits, it costs 50 credits everywhere inside OnPassive, regardless of what the dollar or the euro is doing outside.
So let's clarify something I've heard. People often say 1 credit equals 1 USD. But you're saying it's not actually a dollar. Can you explain that difference?
Yeah, that's a really important point, and it does cause some confusion sometimes. While one credit might be pegged or referenced to the value of 1 USD, mostly for pricing consistency, it's absolutely not a dollar itself. Think of it more like maybe airline miles or a store gift card, or even in-game currency. It has a clear value linked to a real-world currency, but it only functions as an internal token, strictly inside the OnPassive ecosystem. It's really a closed-loop system. That USD reference is just a benchmark, a convenient way to price things until you decide to convert it out through their approved process.
Okay, that makes sense. So for the user, what are the real practical upsides of using credits instead of just, say, using a credit card or doing a bank transfer within the system?
The advantages are pretty significant, actually. First off, speed and simplicity. Big ones. There's no waiting around for bank approvals. You skip things like SWIFT fees for international stuff. And transactions happen pretty much in real time. It cuts through a lot of the usual financial red tape.
Right. And with all this digital movement of value, security must be top of mind. How are credits secured?
Absolutely critical. They state that every single transaction using credits gets recorded on OnPassive's own secure ledger. Plus, they integrate their O-Verify system. That's their identity verification tool, which helps minimize fraud risk, adds a big layer of trust.
Okay. One thing that caught my eye was this idea of financial flexibility. Something about accumulating credits, potentially avoiding immediate tax issues. What's the thinking there?
That's an interesting aspect, yeah. And it really depends heavily on the tax laws in the user's specific country, so that's a big caveat. But the idea is potentially users could accumulate credits and reinvest them within the ecosystem without that immediately triggering a taxable event, which might happen if you withdrew regular currency. It offers some flexibility. And strategically for OnPassive, it encourages users to keep value inside the platform, right? Helps grow the internal economy and makes them less reliant on constant external financial interactions. Keeps the economic engine running internally.
That clarity, that efficiency, seems like it extends right into how founders get paid too. Let's talk more about how credits fit into the commission system.
Sure. So commissions, they're calculated based on a dollar value, but the actual payout is always in OnPassive credits. These go straight into the user's O-wallet, and then the user gets choices. They can start a withdrawal process to get traditional money. They can use the credits to buy more tools or services right there in the ecosystem, or they could even gift credits to another founder within the system.
So this isn't just a payment mechanism. It sounds like it fundamentally shapes their whole economic model. It encourages this self-sustaining economy inside OnPassive. What does that mean for their goal of being sort of independent in the market?
That's a really good way to put it. This system is key to making OnPassive economically self-sufficient. By keeping the value circulating internally, like you said, they reduce their need to constantly deal with external currency exchanges. It streamlines things for them, strengthens their internal economy. It helps them build this robust, independent ecosystem that's maybe less vulnerable to shocks in the wider market.
And looking at the whole OnPassive ecosystem, the OES, how are credits used there? Are they the standard price tag for everything?
Pretty much, yeah. All the products within the OES, whether it's OConnect, OTracker for website analytics, different subscriptions, they're all priced explicitly in credits. This gives users a single unified way to spend. If you need a traffic package or something from their marketplace, you use your credits. You generally don't need to step outside the ecosystem for these transactions.
Makes sense. Very efficient. Now, Can founders earn credits passively? Is there a way to build up credits without just buying